Santo was the only female hunter in the village, but her skills were no less than any of the male hunters. She wasn't married, but had a son named Mark.
Mark, are you ready yet? Let's go. It's very late. I'm ready, Mom. Look over there. No matter how many times I see it, it's still terrifying. It's only been a few years since it was born, but it's grown so big already. Yeah, that thing sure is massive. Do you think what they say is true? That the blind isn't human?
Mark had just turned 12, but his body was as tall and strong as a crewman. The villagers couldn't help but wonder who Mark's father was.
Don't worry about what others say, son. People will always talk. But the most important thing is that you know who you are. Yes, Mom? Good. Now let's get going.
Santo's intention in bringing her son into the forest this time was to teach him how to survive in the wild, just like a true hunter.
Remember, when you're in the forest, pay close attention to the paths you have taken. Even though the trees may all look the same, the way they're shaped is different. And it's important to know how to tell them apart. But don't worry, you'll learn with time. I understand, Mom. I think we've found a good place to camp for the night. Let's set our bags down here and gather to some firewood.
That night, as Santo and Mark sat by the fire, they spoke about Mark's future, something they hadn't discussed in a long time.
The forest at night isn't as scary as it seems, son. Just try to stay in the light and don't let their songs frighten you. I know, but Mom, I might not want to live this kind of life or be part of the forest like you want. Then, what is it that you want to do? I want to be with my father. Can I go live with him? Could he come and take me? No, absolutely not. But Mom, didn't you say Dad lives in the city? Can I at least contact him? Enough! Mark, go to bed. But I haven't finished. I said go to bed. Don't you understand?
That night, both fell asleep in their makeshift beds. Santo, accustomed to camping in the forest, slept soundly. But for Mark, it was his first time and he couldn't sleep well.
Come, stay with us, Mark.
Half asleep, Mark opened his eyes after hearing the voice. Slowly sitting up, he saw someone beckoning to him, calling his name.
For now, we'll take care of you.
Mark glanced at his mother, still fast asleep, then quietly got up and followed the voice.
Come, stay with us. From now on, we'll take care of you.
At the break of dawn, Santo suddenly woke up. When she looked at Mark's bed, she found him gone. Terrified, she immediately searched for him, but no matter how hard she looked, there was no sign of him. Santo, usually composed, began calling out loudly.
Mark, where are you, son? Are you here?
Santo knew how the villagers viewed her son, but despite their fears, she had no choice but to ask for their help. The villagers, though weary of Mark, eventually agreed to help search for him. They searched tirelessly day and night, but couldn't find any trace of him.
Santo, we're heading back now. Are you sure you don't want to camp with us? No, thank you. I'll stay here, just in case Mark comes back. Take care of yourself then. Don't forget to rest. We'll come back tomorrow to help search again. Thank you, everyone.
That night, Santo couldn't sleep. She was filled with anxiety, tears streaming down her face, as Mark was everything to her. Suddenly, a sound caught her attention. As she turned to look, Mark's figure appeared before her.
Mark, my son, are you okay?
Though overjoyed at seeing him again, she froze in place when she saw a tall, imposing man standing next to her son. Santo quickly drew her ancient dagger or lunged at the mysterious man immediately.
Mom, stop! Why are you doing this? Mark, come with me, quickly.
Santo hastily led Mark back home and started packing. Meanwhile, the villagers, who had planned to enter the forest to help her search for her son, saw that she had to return.
Mark, hurry! Pack only the essentials, quickly. Why are we packing, Mom? Hey, Sando's back! So you found Mark, right? Yes, I found him. Thank you so much.
The villagers, relieved by the news, began to head back to the village. However, Mark remained confused as to why his mother was rushing. He stood silently, watching her pack frantically, as if she was trying to escape from something. Once Santo finished, she grabbed Mark's arm and tried to flee from the village.
Mom, you lied to me. What are you talking about, Mark? We don't have time for this. We need to leave now. No, I'm not going anywhere. I want to be with Dad. Why can't we live together as a family? Your father? What are you talking about? The man in the forest is my father, isn't he? You know all along that you lied to me. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying with him. If you want, you can join us, but don't force me. Mark, I gave birth to you, and I've raised you all by myself. And now, you, even so, it's my life too, and I... Mark, come back! I'm telling you to come back!
Santo chased after Mark into the forest, following him to the very spot where they had camped before. There, she saw Mark standing with a tall, mysterious man, one of the 8-cubit men from ancient tales. It was said that these beings, with their giant stature, might not even be human.
I want to stay with my father. Why do you have to keep forcing me?
You called that man your father? He abandoned you before you were even born.
He just left me after I was pregnant, ever caring about you. Now he wants to come back? What for?
13 years ago, while Santo was injured in the forest, she was rescued by one of these 8-cubit men. Although frightened at first, she was won over by his kindness, and they eventually became close. She became pregnant shortly after, but never saw him again. She raised Mark on her own, and over time, her love for that man turned into bitterness and resentment.
Come on now, let's be together. I will take care of you and our son from now on. The man said softly. What are you talking about? We don't belong together. How could we live as a family? But he's half of me and half of you. He's our son. Mom, I don't want us to live apart anymore. Let's stay together.
Suddenly, more figures appeared, giant men and women, all standing 8 cubits tall. Santo was shocked and frightened. There were at least 10 of them, emerging from the forest, surrounding her.
Come with us, and we'll have a happy family life together. It might not be as bad as you think. Your son will be happy too. Mom, I don't want us to be separated anymore.
Though Santo said nothing, her stubbornness gave way. She realized she had no choice but to join them for the sake of her son. The father, the 8-cubit man, leaned down and embraced his family, and signaled the others to follow him as they disappeared deeper into the forest. The other 8-cubit beings followed, and before long, their terrifying grins faded into the darkness.
Since ancient times, there have been beliefs that nature, forests, rivers, mountains, and skies are interconnected, and that there are multiple dimensions overlapping our own, hidden yet real. One such place is the land of the 8-cubit men. Once they step out into the human world, they appear as towering, fearsome giants. But their land is said to be bountiful and prosperous, far different from what it seems on the surface. In the center of this realm stands a village ruled by a being who has lived for thousands of years, the leader of the 8-cubit people. As Santo and her son followed the group back to their village, she couldn't help but feel uneasy.
she was uncertain whether she could truly trust these 8-cubit men. One of the reasons Sandu decided to camp here was her concern for her son. When they all reached the top of the waterfall, which served as the connecting point between the river, forest, earth, and sky, the gate between the two worlds slowly opened. The 8-cubit man, who was Mark's father, walked ahead toward the gate, stood still, and turned back to look at the two of them. Mark glanced at Santu and nodded before they both walked through the gate together. Santu and her son entered the village of the 8-cubit man. She found the village to be just as prosperous as it had been the last time when the 8-cubit man, Mark's father, had brought her here. Suddenly, the gates on the other side of the village also opened, revealing that it wasn't just her and her son who had been brought there, but many other humans as well, along with different groups of 8-cubit people who were entering the village. That night, the 8-cubit man warmly welcomed their visitors, preparing a feast for them to eat heartily and organizing a gathering, so everyone could get to know each other better.
I'm glad we've all come together today. This place is one that most of you may have thought existed, but some of you may not even know that something like this has been watching over you from afar. Now that we've met, I want to extend love and honor to all of you, which is why I've prepared this fine feast and arranged everything to make you feel as close to home as possible. But nothing comes without something in return.
This step was new, but this man, who had lived alone, was willing to give up everything to be with the women he loved. Now, offer your lives to us, and you will all become one with them. The booming announcement from the 8-cubit man sent a shockwave through the group, and suddenly the other 8-cubit men rose up, grabbing the humans they had brought with them. However, some humans, like Sandu, realized what was happening and managed to escape. Others, like Drew, Peter, and Noel, also managed to flee with her. The 8-cubit man chased after the fleeing humans, who were desperately trying to save themselves. Mark of them had known that they were brought here to be sacrificed for a ritual of the 8-cubit man, who were not truly human, but beings that merely resembled humans.
The longer they lived, beyond 500 years, the more powerful they became. What they did was to strengthen their vital energy even further.
Santu and the others who escaped took refuge in a small hut. But they knew this was still the land of the 8-cubit men. It would be long before they were found.
We need to find a way out of here. We can't hide here for long. I agreed, but first, we need to figure out how to open the gate. I'm not sure if we can open it ourselves though. It might not be as hard as we think. I didn't see them use any keys or magic spells. Maybe it's easier to open than we imagined. If we want to get out, there must be a way. But first, we have to make it to the gate. I think we should leave now, said Mark. They're already knocking around here. We will find us soon. Then, let's go, said Drew.
Santu, Mark, Drew, Peter, and Noel quietly left the hut, approaching and moving slowly. Santu, who was leading the group, kept looking back to make sure everyone was still there. But then, she realized her son was no longer with them.
Where's my son? He said he will stay at the back and watch over us. Where's he? He's not here anymore. I have to find him. Wait, don't go yet. Stay calm, Noel urged.
But before he could finish, Noel was grabbed by an 8-cubit man and thrown aside as if he was lifeless. Peter, frozen in shock by what had just happened, was dragged away by her legs, her body disappearing quickly, leaving only her fading screams behind. Drew quickly pulled Santu into another small hut with a crawl space underneath where they could hide. When the 8-cubit man passed by and headed in another direction, The two of them hauled out. Santa was in shock and deeply worried because she still hadn't found her son.
Let's worry about saving ourselves first. In a life or death situation like this, if you keep looking for a son, we'll all end up dead. It's easy for you to say it's not a child, but if it were your son, will you talk to me like this?
Ignoring Drew's words, Santo hardly left the area, and soon she spotted Mark standing calmly, talking to the 8-cubit man, his father, without any sign of fear or panic. Mark turned to look at his mother with a smile. Santo immediately realized that the person standing in front of her was no longer her son. Despite this, her love for him was so deep that she still wanted him to flee with her.
Mark, come with me. Let's run away together, she pleaded. Mom, what are you talking about? Mark replied, his tone cooled. There's no way I'm going back with you. Never. Mom, if I go back with you, I won't be able to eat human flesh, he said with a chilling calmness.
Santo was frozen in shock, unable to comprehend what had become of her son. Mark marched towards his mother, his eyes completely devoid of any human emotion. Seeing Santo in danger, Drew pushed her aside, only to be captured by Mark instead. Mark laughed maniacally and licked Drew's face, the first man he had caught. Santo, snapping out of her shock, quickly gathered herself and ran as fast as she could, overwhelmed with pain and heartbreak. Tears streamed down her face as she fled, eventually reaching the edge of the village where the gate was about to close. At that moment, 2 other survivors had reached the gate before her. As the gate was closing, Santo, with all the strength she had left, leapt forward and made it through just in time. Santo lay motionless on the ground, as if lifeless. But soon, the sound of sobbing emerged, signaling that she was still breathing. Her frail and emaciated body staggered back to her hometown. She collapsed on the ground, her eyes hollow and lifeless. A villager passing by, who was heading into the forest, saw her and immediately called for help.
Hey, someone help! Santo is back! She's back!
The villagers' shouts brought everyone in the village running to assist her, but it seemed Santo no longer desired any help.
Santo, we thought you were dead. Where have you been for the past 3 months? Were you lost in the forest? Another villager asked. Come on, let me help you up. Another offered. No, don't touch me. Stay away, Santo snapped. Pushing their hands away, she stood up by herself and abruptly walked back to her home. The house was overgrown and neglected, yet no one had caused any damage. Now it was just Santo, broken both in body and spirit. She was alive, but her life was hollow, as though she was already dead. So, how's the ending for today? It may not be the kind of conclusion many would have hoped for, but it teaches us that sometimes things that seem trustworthy and good on the outside might not be what they appear. Underneath their beautiful surface, there can be thorns and hidden terrors. If you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.